Now says, here we go. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
And that's Valerie Stivers. And we're back. It's been a while, but we're back to Redrinking, where Valerie and I explore wine and in popular culture. And this is almost more like exploring culture with a later in life wine reference, wouldn't you say, Valerie?
Yes, I mean, I think when we're trying to redrink things, we're trying to look at drinks, wine usually, but other kind of drinks that are current today and that are something that's interesting and exciting that's happening right now, that are also a window into usually the culture of the past. Although I suppose it could be today's culture too, but most of the things we're doing is we're redrinking something that was from history and is having a new experience through wine today.
Yeah, and this is a really cool story because, and we touched upon this in another video, this wine. But what's cool about this is that there is historical art significance to this wine, and I'll show people the bottle. First of all, it's Ver Sacrum.
I have wine too, but he's got
one too. Excellent. How you like that? Cheers.
Very good.
Ver Sacrum, Geisha de Jade, and this is from Argentina. And look at that beautiful label, right? It's like a raised label, and
it's a little textural when you touch it. It's very good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And so we started doing a little bit, or I started doing a little bit of homework, and Valerie was like, "Of course," and she was up on some of this stuff already too. Ver Sacrum comes from it means sacred spring, and Eduardo Soler, the winery owner, who's a art aficionado among many other things. Really took that name from a late 19th century art secessionist magazine and organization in Austria founded by
Gustav Klimt. But is Ver Sacrum is the name of the winery, right? And Geisha de Jade
is the name of the winery.
Bottle. Okay.
Yeah, Geisha de Jade is the name of this specific bottle of wine, which is a white blend of Marsanne and Roussanne grapes.
Marsanne and Roussanne grapes are not grapes I've heard of. Are these common grapes? Are these Argentinian grapes?
No, and that's the cool thing, and that's where Ver Sacrum comes from. That's where this sacred spring of this sort of secessionist movement, if you will, carries over into Eduardo's winery, in that he decided with a couple of friends about 9 years ago to start growing Rhone varietal grapes in the mountains of Argentina. Right now, if you say Argentine wine to somebody, they think Malbec. And there's some good Malbec and tons of not so good Malbec out there. But he was breaking ranks, breaking from tradition, and wanted to make wines made from grapes that you find more in the Rhone in southern France, Marsanne and Roussanne being two of them. So
neat.
Yeah, the whole Ver Sacrum thing is sort of really in sync with his business attitude.
And the Ver Sacrum thing was that, so this was the Vienna Succession, which was a group of artists and actually writers as well in Vienna in the early 1900s. And they were breaking with artistic tradition. Well, actually, they were symbolists and they were doing sort of Art Nouveau work. But when they formed the Vienna Succession, it was to break entirely from traditional work and to reject, I guess, the academy there and people that were still supporting a more traditional and realist style. And so Klimt, of course, was one of the most famous and leading lights of this. And we have on the back of this label a Klimt painting.
Yeah, I should pull up that picture,
really
right?
Beautiful, hard to see here.
I'm going to pull up that picture because it is a Klimt print from that era.
An illustration, not a painting.
Yeah, exactly. And you can actually explain it while I pull the picture up for folks to see.
Okay. It's called Blood of Fish. And this was a, that's not the picture.
Find it. There we go.
With your Amazon advertisements fully.
Yeah, that's not going to work. There is it. That's let me stop that one. And, oh well. I thought I had the right one.
Well, try again. So basically what was happening when Klimt and his fellows were rejecting the traditional art. They were rejecting realism. And this was partially because the society at the time was becoming more industrialized and more mechanized, and the objects that were being produced were suddenly unnatural objects. And there we go. That's
there
great.
we go. That's the back label, by the way, guys.
So here's the back label of this wine, and this was one of his transitional styles where the figures are not realist figures. I mean, they do show female bodies in a recognizable form, but the way that they are sort of floating in water and the way that the hair is, showed sort of sinuous lines and natural forms and a different approach to reality. And they also were starting to use at that time influences not from Western art. So they were using influences. This one is from Japan. There was also a lot of Byzantine influences, and even the very idea of putting sort of design elements into fine art was unusual. So that was also radical.
And a lot of the Vera Sacrum wine labels actually reflect the artwork of the period, but again, the name of the winery comes directly from this whole kind of secessionist movement to kind of break from the mainstream and to show things in a new light. And I'm
imagining their winemaking methods are also fairly natural as well. Is that,
absolutely.
This movement was about nature and was about rejecting machines and rejecting industrialization. And is this a natural wine, Hank?
So this is I wouldn't call it necessarily natural, certainly low intervention. Only about 500 cases are made. Everything is hand picked and hand sorted, and the grapes are foot tread. Is a nice phrase for saying foot stomped, if you will. They're grown at high elevation, 3,500 plus feet in the Argentine mountains. Interestingly enough, Eduardo Soler, who was a former ski patrol in Aspen and a mountaineer as well. He's pretty Renaissance-y. Actually owns a small ski resort as well, a couple hours away from Mendoza in Argentina, where the wines are made. So these wines are made at a high elevation too, really in small quantities, small batches. So just to get it in the first place was actually kind of fun. And also the winery name. And I'll pull up another picture now that I think I know how to do it. Is again, a label from one of the early Vera Sacrum magazines. And the magazine was only around from about 1898 to 1903. But this is one of the most sought after labels. And it happens to be, I think, the logo for Vera Sacrum Winery, if I can pull it up here. And it is by Moser, the artist. And that actually is, that picture there you see, is the logo for Vera Sacrum Winery.
Wow, it's very beautiful. I like it very much. So what does this wine taste like?
This wine tastes as beautiful as the label, and it really is. It's the nice thing about Marsanne and Roussanne is that it's again Southern French Rhone grapes. The style tends to be fuller bodied for white wine, very rich, and this wonderful combination of tropical fruit and stone fruit, but also floral and nuttiness and spices, and it really is this beautiful, rich wine. But using his touch, using minimal intervention, growing at a higher elevation, there's still this beautiful clarity and richness in the wine, but it's not as heavy or as full bodied. There's a real lightness to it too as well. So it's we had the pleasure of having some last year when we did our video, and I was really kind of blown away by it. And I've been watching, trying to get it back this year for a wine club that I run, which Valerie also participates in. And because I just knew, the label itself is striking and the wine is striking too. And I think that is probably the best way I can describe it. It's the bottle's beautiful and the wine is beautiful on the glass. So,
and I think it's really interesting that it connects to Klimt's work, especially because that's an incredibly popular painter, and that's an artist who a huge amount of people connect with sort of broadly over the spectrum. And as I was researching Klimt and looking into this, when it was talking about his art technique, one of the things it was saying was that while he used these sort of design elements and unrealistic elements, the thing that was most important to him was the human connection and love and bodies. So in so many of these pictures, I mean, everyone knows what the kiss looks like. In the kiss, it's the faces and it's the skin and it's the flesh that is done in a realistic way, and then the rest of it gets has the mosaic or has the robe with all the color patterns on it. So in a lot of ways, what his work was doing was foregrounding human connection and emotion and passion. And I think everybody realizes that when they see the work, because it's just something that so many people connect to. Like, it really, really strikes the heart.
Well, speaking of which, this is one that you specifically had asked me to kind of pull up. And
I did. Well, this is an example of this too. I don't know, but can you scroll down, because it's
yeah, let me see. There we go.
So, this actually, this is death and life. And it's another reminder that Klimt was a symbolist, because, obviously these are two symbols. One is of life, death on the one side with the skull, and this sort of big human mass of bodies all tangled together is life. And I had a poster of a detail of this on my dorm room wall in college.
Oh, wow.
Because of the mother and the child, and the sort of incredible sinuous beautifulness of the mother holding the child on her shoulder. And I always thought his work just showed love so spectacularly.
But I thought college posters were usually impressionists.
I think I had some of those too, but sometimes a person would have a Klimt.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Anyway, so I hope that people love this wine as much as they love his work. If anyone, is this a wine that people are going to be able to find, or it's very...
Well, that's the tricky thing, is it's not easy to find, but if you do find any of the wines, you'll find some really cool Art Deco labels on some of the other Ver Sacrum wines. There are reds and there are whites, and they tend to be actually really favorably priced, especially for the quality and the effort and labor that goes and the care that goes into making them. They're wines that people should definitely seek out. And I'm looking forward. We actually have a wine club Zoom call next week with Eduardo Soler, so we'll probably even be able to.
We'll learn more. We would have been more informed if we were talking to you all next week, but now we are. So if anybody does get this wine, make sure to run your fingers on the label.
Yes, especially after you've had two glasses. And it really is. So it's it's a fantastic wine, and it's a great story and a great connection. And
we are redrinking. We will come redrink something else with you again soon.
Really soon.
Once Hank grows some woodruff for his yard.
Next, yes, May wine is next. I'm on the hunt for sweet woodruff. More on that later.
Reach out to us.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay, thank you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.